Okay.
All right, well, welcome to our ILMathCom meeting for today. I'm Janine Shepard. I am an ISU, ISBE Math and Science Content Specialist. And with us today, Lisa Ward is also a content specialist for ISBE. She's a learning supports specialist. And then we have Mike Reiners with Casio, but he's also a teacher at, what's the name of your school?
Christ's Household of Faith School in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Great. So I love classroom teacher and software developer, right?
Correct. Yep.
Fantastic. All right. So we're going to talk about some tech tools for our math classroom. And just as a reminder, ISBE and ISU do not endorse anything, but we want to share all of the great resources that are out there and talk about the best ways to use them in our classrooms and see what other awesome things are going on in the state. As always, we have our links in the chat box, so you can see that mathteachersinaction.org. There's a forum there where you can revisit some of the resources that we share. Our Facebook page, that facebook.com/ILMathCom. And then our Twitter is IL Content Specialists. So you can find more resources there and share any of your experiences there as you wish. All right. Well, Lisa, if you want to get us started, you're going to talk about illuminations.
Illuminations, yes, yes. Can you send me the screen or?
You just hover and share over the menu bar at the bottom.
Let's go there. All right. Are you seeing my tech one?
Yes, yeah. We are.
Okay. I always have to ask because I have three monitors and sometimes I don't pick the right one. This is a tech resource page. There's all kinds of tech for all kinds of teachers, any grade level, and everything on here is a free resource. So a little summer surfing for you there. But we're going to go into the content areas and into mathematics. Anything I've got on this page has been vetted by my math specialist right there. So she's seen it and agreed with it. And scrolling down, it's broken into different categories. But scrolling down for online tools and simulations, that's where Illuminations is. Okay? So when we click into that in Illuminations, it'll take you straight to the interactives. So you don't really have to do the NCTM entire site, but straight to the interactivities. And these will all work on interactive whiteboards as well. So if you have a smart board, all of them will work with this. And you can search by the NCTM standards, or you can choose the Common Core, which is us. Then select grade levels. I like, let's see if I do second grade and search, it'll come up with certain choices here and activities in which to work with. I was going to show grouping and grazing, but a little under the high school age there, but just to give you an idea of some of the things that they do. And if you're an interventionist, you might be. Can you hear him? So it tells you what you need to do. You can count by fives, count by tens, add and subtract as well. So it gets a nice little platform. When you click the cows, they flip over until you get your 5, and they send them in a group. And there you go. And it puts them in the 5s. But I like this too. It also puts tally marks down here. Okay. So you can do the tally mark counting as well. Once you get them all up there, if you have extra cows left over, you just drag them up as well. And then it will either let you count or you can count with it. And it'll count at 5, 10, 15, 20, and so forth. So completely interactive to play with there. Yeah. And we'll go back here and look up other ways you can search. Now, as I did grade 2 there, let's see if I go to 6th grade and I click that, I can also choose specific areas within it that we want to play with. So I can choose 6th grade and go to geometry. Not my forte, but we'll go to it anyways. And different ways to do this within that category. Now notice some of them have all the grade levels there because you can change what's inside of it to be where you want to be. So if you're 9-12 in geometric solids, you can up the game instead of K2. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions about illuminations?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anybody used it before?
I have.
Yeah, I bet you have. I do like them. They're great, and the fact that they can be on the interactive whiteboards is just fantastic. Especially the younger ones, the coins, the cows, and all that can be done on the interactive board as well as a whole class, and that makes it easier for them. And most all of them are being converted to work on the Chromebooks.
Okay.
They can all work on tablets. So most all of it works on the iPads. They have to change from having Flash Player to being HTML coded, HTML5 coded,
Okay.
for it to work on the Chromebooks. Majority of them are. I've still come across one or two that don't play well, but they're working on it. You have to reprogram it all. Okay? So all kinds of categories you can go in here, all kinds of grade levels, and then break down into what you want. I know 9-12, since you're high school there,
Right.
algebra functions, I mean, stats and probability, and we didn't just practice, there'll be random practice things to activities, not really a skill and drill, more of a conceptual practice.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Lisa, would you mind showing the shape balancer?
Oh, yeah, the, let's see, I found that in 6. The geometric shapes
I
the-
think
on the pan balance.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I like that one too. Oh, you can do the pan balance expressions, numbers, and shapes. So I do like the shapes one. Let it load its little self up here. So this, when you come up, it automatically picks it up. You don't have to click to it. And if you bring it down, you click and put it where you want it to be. And the idea is to figure out what the value of each of these shapes are by putting them together. And you're like, well, that blue circle is a lot heavier than the red square. Maybe if I add another square, we're balanced. And then it puts it up here. You can count the items if you'd like to, or show the array. Either way you want to do it. And you can guess what the weights are if you already know. I don't know yet. So I would have to keep going. And when I reset, it keeps that one up there. And I can keep it go. Okay? I can do randoms, and there's different sets. So it'll work different ways. In other words, the balance is different on each one of them. And then the random is a choice as well. Is that what you're talking about, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah. And again, on an interactive whiteboard, anybody can go up and pull one down, and someone, well, I need 2 of these. Another student can pull those down. And it just makes it, and because it keeps the array up here as you keep going, you could end up with a list of 10 sitting there for students. Look, and doing it interactively on the whiteboard together makes it so much easier when they go to the tablet themselves.
Sure.
And that, I like if you're doing it with an iPad or something, once they get their arrays here, they can do the power and button and save a picture of what they've done. Okay. A lot of these will let you print as well, depending upon what the activity is. But I like with the tablets, or even on a computer, you can choose a screenshot and then what they've done as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Other on that Tech for Teachers website too, do you want to share your the standards documents, or
I can show that I have, let me show both. That in my Tech in Actions. So on the home page for Tech for Teachers, and we'll put that in the chat room, this is handouts. And this is when I do different presentations and all of that, somewhere we can grab my handouts from. On here, the ones I like to look, technology and the standards for K-5 and technology and the standards for 6-12. I had many teachers going, well, where is tech in math? Where is tech in the actual standards? Where is it written? Okay, so I pulled those out, not only with math, ELA, science, social science, and I also connect with them. Social emotional learning standards go as well. So if we take a peek at this one, I'll just show you how it's laid out. This is 6-12. So if we look here, and we've got English language arts, here's the standard, and this is college and career ready, and here's 3 things that can support that standard. Give you a little description why. And then as we go down, there's another set of standards. And they have all the grade levels there too. So as the integration of knowledge and ideas is in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th, you can see the progression. And you can see the progression of how that changes in the language of those. And all the grade levels will have this. And then everywhere there's a blue box right here, it shows you how those things above it can be integrated to match the social emotional learning goals that we have here in the state of Illinois. Everybody know we have learning standards for social emotional? Yes?
Yes.
Awesome. So goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3, and it just tells you a little bit like goal 1 for those things up there, incorporating the conversations around emotions of the characters and the stories you're developing, because that's what you were doing in the tools up above it. It just gives you an idea how to blend that in as well. So that's the tech and the standards, and you can get that under the handouts page. Both of those are there. And then one other thing I did, I had lots of teachers going, I want to start with tech, where do I start? Just give me somewhere to start, easy ones to throw in. So this Tech in Action Guides, if you click on this, it takes you to a page. It also connects with some of the ISBE standards, if you know, they're familiar with that, the technology standards. But if we go here, they're broken down into different categories. So if we choose like elementary mathematics, this is a one-page front and back of quick and easy, again, all free resources to help with elementary mathematics. So you can take a look here. Of course, you see Illuminations right up there. The Prodigy Math Snacks is really fun if you've never gone into Math Snacks before. And then some videos to incorporate some of that in there. I also have a little tech there too, because a lot can't play YouTube in the classroom. You just can't play it. Or you can't send a YouTube video in Google Classroom. You can if you use Safe Share TV. It gives you a different URL, and you can send YouTube to the Chromebooks, right? Or up on your screen or wherever you want to. Through Safe Share, it gets rid of all the ads.
Okay.
Of course, elementary, I've got mobile apps in there because a lot of the K2 are still with iPads. Okay, and then the virtual tools, they have them as well. And then, of course, a connection to how to get back to Tech for Teachers. So there's everything there, and there's a math for secondary as well. But then it also has all the other things, portfolios. And no matter what you're teaching, to build a portfolio, either elementary, just to reflect on what they're doing through the year. Secondary, the best way I like for portfolios secondary is preparing to go to the next level. For high school, it would be get a job. The college, a lot of the college essays will like a digital portfolio of a student. But it's just a way for them to gather the things they're doing throughout high school as well. And there's different ways to create a portfolio. And then, of course, social emotional learning broken in grade levels as well. We have special resources for special education teachers, CTE, computer science and coding, and then teacher resources, and open educational resources as well. So it kind of hits all the gamut, ones that are very easy to get started with. So if you're not quite sure where you want to be, this is a good way to get started with it as well. And they're easy to print out. They're all PDFs. And if you'd like to, you can just click this one and get all of them in one big PDF package.
Okay.
Okay, so easy to share as well.
Good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for joining us, Glenna.
Oh, thanks.
And what grade do you teach? Oh, you're all right. It's okay.
6th grade science, or 6th grade math and science.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, welcome. Mike, would you like to share your class pad with us, please?
Sure. So what I'm going to share with you today is kind of the culmination of a 2-year passion project for me. This is ClassPad.net. It is digital math scratch paper. It's designed to be a free resource in a wide open space where you can just create mathematics to your heart's content. But functionally for teachers, which I'm a 22-year teacher in Minnesota. I've been at the same school this entire time, and I teach at a very small school that has very, very, very limited resources. And so I like things that are free. And I also am sensitive to the increased technology burdens that are on teachers. When I first started teaching, teachers had to learn to use about 2 software packages a year. That was the average. And I'm not, that's outside of math. That's any teacher. Usually math, it was higher than that. And now that number is 7. So between new SISs and SMSs and, you know, Microsoft deciding that Office should have a 365 after it and totally function differently, and it's a big burden. And a lot of people are technology overwhelmed in the classroom as teachers. So one of the things that we tried to do here was to take a number of different technologies that teachers use and need on a regular basis in the math classroom, whether it be dynamic geometry or data analysis and statistics, some kind of graphing utility, computation and calculation, and put them all into one place. So that instead of taking 5, 6, 7 software packages and learning each of them to about 10% mastery, and therefore probably using all of them less than effectually in your classroom, that you could take one piece of free software and pour yourself into it a little bit and learn it very, very well. Be able to still use some of the expertise that you've gained from using other similar software packages, like, okay, I know how to graph on a computer or calculator, online graphing utility. I know how to do a computation. I know how to do this dynamic geometry investigation. But take all of that and put it into one place, and then really have you start to develop and have you able to share this with other teachers and so on. So that's what ClassPad is. I'm going to just click anywhere in this space. And when I say click, I want you to also think tap, because this is optimized for any device that uses a browser. So it's optimized for touch, and you'll be able to tell by size of icons that that's the case. So let's say I want to do some calculation. I hit the calculate icon. There are these little things we call sticky notes. So unlike a normal piece of paper, you can actually move your work around. Okay. I can start typing in basic calculations using my keyboard. I can use math templates down here. Everything is using Casio's natural display. So that means that it's inputting things the way that we would write them or that we would see them in a book. And when I get any kind of response that has an exact mathematical form or a decimal equivalent, we can just hit this toggle here and we can see the different equivalents. The 7/6 example is something that will have mixed numbers as a third option that just hasn't been implemented yet. So same kind of thing applies. If you're going to do a radical expression, for example, you can just toggle back and forth. And if you only wanted your students to see the decimal output, that's easily accessible via a math setting. You could go to your math settings here and change those and say, I want my number format to be a particular way, or I want angles to come out in a special way. Calculation results, you could set to decimal all the time, for example. And this calculation area is the brains behind ClassPad.net is actually a full-on computer algebra system that's 15 years mature, which is the ClassPad engine. ClassPad is a series of hardware products that's been out for a long time. And that architecture and logic is what runs ClassPad.net. The power of that is, and this, Lisa, is why I wanted you to show the shapes one.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, when you were doing the shape sorter, one of the things that you saw was that I think it was a triangle was worth 2 circles or something like that. Let's just say that that's what the case was. Well, ClassPad is capable of accepting multi-character variables. So because it's based on a computer algebra system. So for example, if I wanted to start storing my shape equivalences that I was seeing on the right side of that illumination in a more mathematical format, as you're starting to transition students from using the shapes to build algebra and reasoning, and now you want to get into a more character-based symbolic approach, I could say, for example, that I want to define a triangle as being equal to 2 times the circle. I misspelled circle, but okay, so now it's twice that. So now if I learn later, for example, that the circle, and I got to misspell it the same way, but if I could always redefine triangle, let me just do that. Otherwise I'm going to have to think past myself here. So now I've redefined the triangle. But now if later I learn that the circle, for example, is 3 squares, now if I look at the value of triangle, for instance, you notice the triangle is now 6 squares.
Okay.
Right, so it's starting to draw some of those connections and conclusions. If I learn that the square at some point has a value of 4, let's say, now I can go back and say, well, what's the value of the circle? And what's the value of the triangle? It's a great way to check where, so that's a little bit of a connection. Throughout my career with mathematical technology, I'm big on, if you find a new piece of technology and you like it, before you jump in full with 2 feet and 2 arms and say, you know, I'm going for this, try to determine how you can use it alongside or in concert with things that you already use, so that you further empower technologies you already have and use every day. And if you can't, then you either need to say, well, I need to use this to replace something else, or I need to just not use this. You know, it becomes potentially a burden and one more thing to add. But the point is that this goes as high as you want it to go. So from a high school standpoint, you know, do I want to do definite integrals? I can do definite integrals. And so I can calculate that, for example, notice the exact form in the decimal form. Or I could do the same thing, except I could say, you know what, I actually don't want the definite integral. I want to just know the indefinite integral. And then I can integrate. And that's just going to convert the number parts of that to a decimal form. And you can see, I mean, this goes to college mathematics and beyond. So it's accessible for lower level activities, lower grade level activities, I should say, and it's accessible for high school, college, and beyond. Well, there's plenty of software that does what I just showed you. But now when I've done the calculation, in the same space as I just did some high level calculation, I also want to do graphing. So now I open up a graph, and now I begin doing graphing kinds of things. Here's my graph. You know, here's some points. Notice the exact form. That's something that's unique to our product. So I can turn that to decimals if I want, and only look at decimal expansions if I want to. Let's say that I want to compare this to the parent function. I can put in the parent function, but you know, a lot of times I might want to look at the parent function at the same time as the transformed function. And other times I might want to look at them separately. So I just drag this handle over here and I can separate the graphs. So now, do I want them side by side? Or what will happen a lot, like with my students, for example, they'll make 2 different graphs separately and then realize that they need to look at them to, oh, I'm supposed to find an intersection. And then all they have to do is take the graphs and drag them back together. And it's drag and drop. There you go. So, and this kind of separation ability and drag and drop combine ability is something we're only scratching the surface of. I mean, we imagine, for example, eventually being able to take something like this integral and select it and drag and drop it onto the graph. And then you're looking at the visual representation of that integral. So this is a good point for me to say that this product is in public beta right now. It's publicly available. Again, it's entirely free. Classpad.net is the address. But by telling you that it's in public beta, I want you to know that we're accepting and in fact soliciting feedback. We want to hear what's going right and what's going wrong. So if you go to classpad.net and on the main homepage, you can either go to About up here and Public Beta, or you can go to Help and Support, and you can go to Private Beta right there. And it actually brings you to the same page. And there's just a button for report issue, which is not just something going wrong, but this could be as simple as, but I want you to do this and you're not doing it. So please make that happen. Or asking, how do I do this? We're very responsive right now because our user base is pretty small yet. We just released the public beta at NCTM at the end of April. And we did that on purpose because we want 2, 3, 4, 5 months of teachers responding to us and messing around and telling us things that they want to see. I'm just going to pop back here for a moment. I'm going to log into an account, which previously I wasn't logged into an account. So I was just using it as what you might think of as a throwaway piece of scratch paper in the classroom. I had never had any intent to save this before. If I reload the page or I go anywhere else, it's all gone. But now that I've logged into my account, everything I was working on is now immediately cloud saved. That's what this icon indicates.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can retitle the paper. So, I can say Illinois is amazing. Okay. And then I have my paper and everything saved. The paper is infinite top to bottom. So you can keep filling it, or you can just create a new paper. And so if I want to do some geometry, I can create a geometry sticky note. And one of my favorite things about our software is drawing recognition. So instead of trying to figure out how tools work, if you're especially a younger student, you just want to draw shapes. You just tap to make a point. You draw to make a segment.
Okay.
You draw to make a triangle. You draw, even if you don't draw well, it's fine. You can make segment paths. And then once you have your shape, now you can do all your dynamic geometry stuff. So I actually intended this to be equilateral, but I draw poorly. So I select the shape, regular polygon, done, it's equilateral. And now you can go nuts with all of your dynamic geometry kind of activity. Right? So, hey, look, there's the centroid, and now if I drag a point around, I can see when is that point inside the triangle or outside. So these are all resizable. So make them as big or small as you want. Typical zoom in and zoom out tools work great. There's all your transformations. Get rid of a sticky note by clicking in the corner. I can do statistics. So let's put some data in there. I can select this data, for example, and I can do one variable stats, and it's just one click away, and I can see anything I want. I can select it and do, let's do a box and whisker. That's just one click away. So there's my box and whisker. There's my 5-number summary. You can imagine stacking several boxes and whiskers on top of each other for comparison, or just like any other graphs, you can drag and separate them if you want. And you can do your regressions the same way. This is basically a spreadsheet, and we're adding new spreadsheet functionality to it every day. We want it so that you don't have to necessarily go to a separate application to do some spreadsheet work also with your students and teach them about formulas and recursive relationships and things. So I can make my scatter plot, and there's my scatter plot, my points, and then I can do my regression. Here's my linear regression. And if I drag a point and move it, things change respectively. So
you must be a mind reader, because Heather, literally, she wasn't able to be on the call today, obviously. But she sent me a text. She's like, find out how to do linear regressions on ClassPad.
Done. Done.
There you go, Heather.
So we're pretty excited. We've already partnered with Kendall Hunt Publishers. So if you're familiar at all with the Discovering Algebra, Discovering Geometry, Discovering Advanced Algebra series, ClassPad.net is going to be the digital tool inside their ebooks for algebra and discovering and advanced algebra starting this fall. I'm very excited. I just got the pilot materials for those yesterday, and Discovering Geometry in the fall of 2019. And we're partnering with some assessment partners so that students can actually use the same digital tools in the classroom that they are using on their tests, for example. And so State of Mississippi is the first one that's going to have ClassPad.net on their digital exams starting in spring of 2019. And we expect about 8 or 9 others to follow in 2020. So we're not just producing a tool that is available for students and teachers, but we're trying to address issues from both ends and make sure that there's common shared resources both directions, so we're not handicapping our students when they walk into an exam or when they switch a textbook or something like that. So again, it's free, enjoy it. Accounts are free, everything's cloud saved. We're adding features all the time. This product will already look a lot different in very positive ways 2 months from now than it looks right now. We just had a planning meeting for the next 2 months last night with some of our engineers in Japan, and there's some very exciting stuff coming. And so we go full version 1 on August 1st, and that's gonna be kind of, into the back to school push. But one of the main reasons that I was glad to come on this webinar was to let you know that I'm still a full-time everyday classroom teacher, and yet I'm the product manager for this product, which means every new feature runs through me. And it's not just a teacher providing his opinion or idea of what should happen, and then maybe the company does or doesn't use it. I listen to all of you guys, and I take what features you want to see, and then I walk right up to the engineers and say, this is what teachers want, please build it, go. So it's a fun project to be involved with, and I'm glad to share it with you.
Great.
Thank you so much, Mike. I do have one question. If I were building a homework assignment or a task or an assessment, could I drag and drop any of these into another document? How does that work? Or use like a clipping feature? Or?
Yeah, so first of all, one of the things you should realize is that in many cases, you may be able to create the entire document on ClassPad.net, because the only sticky I didn't show you was text. And here's a text sticky, and I can type stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And make math. And I can use all these tools. So, I can put math content in there. This is very rudimentary right now, but we have big ideas for where this is going to go. I mean, we want the text sticky to be your full-on math text editor right inside ClassPad.net.
Right.
It doesn't have any of the Word, doesn't play nice with math type, doesn't play nice with Equate.io, doesn't play nice with Google, whatever. No. Just like put it all in the same space, so you can stop finally cutting and pasting stuff from one thing into another, and it breaks and it doesn't work 5 years from now. I've been through all of that, and it's horrible.
Right.
So that's our idea for this space. So first of all, we already have people making entire documents right in ClassPad, and here's how easy it is to either produce the entire document from here, or as you suggested, Janine, what if I want content to go other places? Right now, let's say that I just wanted this. Well, let's say I wanted everything on this paper right now, exactly as you see it.
Mm-hmm.
I would just go to my browser print command.
Okay.
And from my browser print command, I'm just going to say, give me a PDF. That is not a PDF. Let's do this one. Okay. So now I have a PDF copy, and notice it's laid out exactly the way that I have it on my screen. So now it becomes a page layout tool also, and it's as simple as drag your stuff around and put it exactly where you want. And no, you don't have to worry about how Word formats your stuff, or how your image broke up all your text on your Google Doc, or you don't have to worry about any of that. So you can do that, or if you only want the contents from certain stickies, that's what these selection circles are in the corner. So if I have this selected, I can select this graph. And now when I go to the browser print command and I do the PDF, it's only those two. Which is cool, because then as a teacher, I can set up a whole bunch of stuff in the paper, and half of it I want my students to see, right? Because maybe I'm making a test item or an activity or a exit ticket or something, and I want to set up this certain situation, but it required that I have these 3 things tied together. But I only want my students to see the final product, because I want them to have to, discover, investigate everything else on their own. But all my setup stuff is on the paper. So, and right now it's PDF, but it's eventually going to be in the case where if I have these 2 stickies selected, I'll be able to right click And instead of your browser menu, which comes up right now, you'll right click and you'll get options for, do you want this as a PDF, or do you want this to be a ping file, picture file that you can drop into something else? Maybe you set this up and this is like your entire PowerPoint or Google slide that you drop in. So, but again, you tell us exactly what you want to be able to do with it and how you want it to interact with your other technology, and what can we do to make this a teaching tool that makes you happy.
Yeah, the compatibility with Google Slides or PowerPoint, that's wonderful too. That's a great idea. Renew, you had your hand up.
I wanted to know if this can be used on Chromebooks.
Absolutely. Right now it's optimized for Chrome actually. So any device that runs Chrome, I mean,
okay.
This is not, because screen real estate is nice and you want to have room to move stuff around. We don't advise that people use it on phones, but a ridiculous number of people that we've seen have already used it on a phone just to bring up like one sticky note and calculate something, or one thing to show a graph to their friend. But Chromebooks are absolutely a use case for it. And right now in the beta format, it's optimized for Chrome. So whatever device you use it on, please use Chrome right now. You'll have the best experience.
Okay.
It's not that it doesn't work on other things, but more stuff will be likely to break there. By the time our full release comes August 1st, you'll be able to use it on any modern browser, Firefox, Edge, Safari.
Okay.
But yeah, Chrome on iPad, Chrome on a Chromebook, Chrome on Windows, Mac, go to town.
Wonderful. This is fabulous. Thank you.
What other questions do we have for Mike or Lisa?
You have a couple in the chat box there.
Oh.
Any plans of being able to create a class and share documents with students? Perhaps have them take the test right on here.
Yes, we already have sharing to an extent. So let me show you the sharing that's there. If you go up to the class, not the browser, but the ClassPad 3-dot menu here, you can only do this if you have an account, because there has to be an owner of the paper. But you just go to share, and then by default, the paper is private, only you can see it. You can either public share it, you hit public share and hit apply, and then what happens is this URL becomes the shareable URL. Now, you can only do that if the paper has a title. So you'd go back and make it have a title first. But you can also URL share by password, so that if you're working on something that maybe it's assessment items with a colleague of yours and you're sharing them back and forth, you could potentially password protect it. We don't imagine that a ton of people are going to use this, but it's available. And you can mark something as homework, which doesn't do anything fancy. It just, when it's shared, the person sees that there's a due date on it. But when I share this with you and you open it, you actually are opening a copy of the document inside your ClassPad.net account.
Oh,
so the sender has to have an account, and the recipient right now has to have an account. That's going to change eventually, and they're going to open it as a guest. But right now, you have to have an account to receive it. And then when you open it, you open your own copy. So if you as the teacher are sharing it with your students, I share it with 30 students. They now open their own 30 copies of it. And if they share it back with me, I'm getting a copy of their work, not their exact work. So then you have versions of the document that can get passed back and forth that way. As far as creating a class, we have not created any of that architecture yet, intentionally, because we wanted to create, for lack of a better term, a kick-ass set of tools and give it to teachers and students and let them use it, and then especially let teachers tell us how exactly they want to share it with their class. How do they want to be able to see their students' work? As far as taking the test right on there, we have several assessment partners that are solving that already. They want to be able to use existing assessment platforms, and ClassPad.net is a digital tool that's involved there. To Glenna's question about other ways for students to share their work, certainly the sharing that I just described with the documents. I mean, if you happen to be a Google Apps for Education school, you could of course take this URL, drop it in Google Classroom, and you win.
So it goes both ways. It's not just pushed out from the instructor. It can also be pushed out by the student.
Because as far as ClassPad.net is concerned, the instructor is no different than any other user. The instructor makes a paper and can share the URL. The student makes a paper and is the original owner. The student can share the paper. It's fine. Go for it. And like I said, the ability to take content and drop it as a ping, or literally just use your platform's normal copy paste from the operating system will be working soon as well. Handwriting question just came up. Yes, we have handwriting recognition. That's an accessibility feature. That's a feature that will eventually be a paid feature because it's something we have to license from a third-party company and we have to pay for it, so we have to pass the cost on. But it's, I mean, it can accept anything you want, so it can accept numbers, it can accept, now I'm writing this with a trackpad, so please forgive my late failure to do this well. I mean, I try to imagine it on a touch screen, right?
Great.
But it can accept numbers, it can accept expressions, so, you know, right now ClassPad's gonna say that's x squared plus 5 because you haven't defined x. So, and for teachers that are concerned about some of the CAS abilities, I mean, understand it's a computer algebra system, so it's perfectly fine doing stuff like that. The computer algebra system aspect, by teacher request, we are also putting behind a paywall so that the free version of the product doesn't have computer algebra system turned on by default. However, any of these things that we're talking about being paid, we're talking about like microtransaction levels. Think what you would pay for an app, not a piece of like full-on desktop software, and that's what you would pay for a component, which, and we're making as few components as possible paid because Casio does not actually make any money off of making paid components. It's nothing compared to the cost of generating a product like this. So the only reason we're making some of those components paid is either because we have to pay for them, or because, again, teachers have just asked us, please don't give computer algebra stuff to my students for free because they can't use it on in their assessments, or that's not the kind of technology I want them to use in my class. So that way it gives the freedom for people to operate with their technology however they choose.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions for either of our guests? Or do you guys have any great technology things happening in your classroom? Any products that you like to use, or any activities you like to incorporate that use technology? How many of you are one-to-one?
We are.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Glenna, is your school? Did you? I couldn't see your face.
She raised her hand, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. I could only, I had to scroll down.
Yeah, we're one-to-one Chromebook.
Wow. Yeah, we're not.
How many of you that are one-to-one with Chrome, Renu, are you one-to-one also with Chromebooks?
With Chromebooks.
Those of you that, Keith, what devices are you guys on?
We've had PCs, but we're switching to Chromebooks. We're phasing in Chromebooks.
Okay, how many of the three of you are touchscreen with Chromebooks?
No.
That's the problem.
I wish.
It's a big problem.
No, I'm just curious to hear from people because
I wish
what I hear is like just across the country is like 50-50.
Yeah. No, think of the least inexpensive Chromebook you can possibly think of.
Exactly.
That's what we have.
Yeah.
I've had some schools that are K-1 that wanted them to have Chromebooks. They got the touchscreen Chromebooks because the kids are so much in between that iPad and computer.
Yeah.
They bit the bullet for K-1. So, yeah.
Looked at them, and our high school uses them, but they were just too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You can get a pretty good education caliber Chromebook for $150, $160 a piece. And if you go touchscreen, you're basically adding $100 to that.
Mm-hmm.
Times whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So, Yeah, in our school, we have the beautiful situation of the devices are PCs and they are Macs and they are touchscreen Chromebooks and they are Chromebooks.
Yeah.
So
we have
we're all
that
over the
too
place.
because students can bring their own equipment. So we do have that too. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else have anything to share as far as how you're using your one-to-one technology or? Great happenings, advances that you've seen since you've started using the one-to-one technology?
I've done a lot more flipped classroom stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that's been beneficial, for kids, either to be able to do stuff, see lectures or whatever outside of class, and then be able to go back and stop and, review them later or what have you. So I think that's been good.
So then how did that change how you're using your class time?
Usually, they watch like a 10 to 15 minute kind of basics kind of video, and then I leave them with a problem or something to think about or try, and then that's how we start class the next day with that discussion in groups. And then we can do more activity and application and that kind of stuff in class. And it's been really great for differentiation and stuff like that, because then I can pull groups of students that maybe are struggling more with it or whatever, while other kids are off exploring, some of the deeper aspects. So
I love it. Yeah. So are you recording your own lectures, or are you using your, wow.
Mostly my own, just using Smartboard.
Okay.
The recorder on Smart. So, yeah.
Very good. And are you able to reuse them? I'm sorry, I'm asking you so many questions. Are you able to reuse them each year, or do you find yourself redoing them?
It depends. Sometimes it depends. Some I reuse and some I tweak, and some I wish I would have just taken out 5 minutes in the middle, so then I end up re-recording it or whatever. So yeah. And over time, I've tried the more that I've made them, I try to make them more general and not specific, like, oh, and in the beginning I would say things like, and don't forget, the field trip stuff is due next week, or, like just to give a reminder, and I try to take all that stuff out so that they are a little bit more general. So
yeah.
Yep.
I'm with Keith, and I've tried we've got a big push for like personalized learning and personalized paths and pacing and things like that. So I've used our technology a lot for the flipped classroom as well. And now, looking forward to year 2 of implementing this, I'm looking for different modalities for kids to be doing their work other than just watching a video and doing it paper pencil. So the Illuminations program that Lisa was showing and the class pad that Mike was showing, I think it's going to really help allow my online curriculum to be a lot more dynamic.
Right. I have so many questions now about personalized learning. That was the topic of conversation at the Student Achievement Partners core convening this weekend.
I have, just so you know, I have Heather's son in my class.
Okay.
So
yeah, it was an interesting conversation, but it was the whole idea of personalizing learning without saying, predetermining, okay, giving everyone access to a high level of mathematics, right? Like that's our goal, is to get everyone to the high level of mathematics and deep conceptual understanding. And the concern, like the big buzz at the conference was, with personalized learning, are you predetermining how far they're going to get? Are you lowering the expectations for some students and having high expectations of other students? And is that fair? Right. So it was, I have so many questions. We didn't settle on an answer. Cause I mean, you don't want to, what kind of person would you look like if you say I'm against personalized learning? That sounds horrible if you say that, right? We all want a personalized experience for our students, but it's just making sure that they all get that rich experience, right? And get pushed as far as they can go?
Yeah, that just takes a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
To create that type of community and curriculum.
Right.
I'm working there, but we'll see.
Yeah. Heather and I have talked a lot about this and how you can differentiate without, we call it inclusive differentiating. So differentiate and engage all the learners in your classroom without teaching different things, right? Without teaching them differently. Anyway, it's complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's necessarily the vision that the personalized learning people had in mind either, right?
No, I totally agree. Completely. So.
What a great conversation. I could talk to you guys all day. Renu, do you have anything you want to share with us?
Oh, well, I've been using Schoology and Desmos in my classrooms. I use the document camera quite often, but I want to start implementing more of the sort of programs that were being discussed today, and try and include more student choice in my teaching or in my activities. And so, you know, I'm always trying to think of what could I be doing differently. And so over the summer, I'm going to be looking at some of the other technologies and seeing what I could include that I'm not currently including. So, yep.
It's fun to explore all the great tools out there, and then 5 hours later you realize that
5 hours have gone by.
Yeah, that you're really hungry and haven't talked to people in a while. Anyway. All right. Well, I will not keep you any longer on your Renu, how many more days of school do you have?
We have, let's see, 3.
How do you not know that instantly?
I know.
Try not to think about it.
I'm just kidding.
Try not to think about it. We have, what day is it? It's Thursday, right? So 1, 2, 3. We have about like 7 days left.
Oh,
We
wow.
won't
7
finish
days.
until the 6th. So maybe
My
I'm just
students start the countdown at like 97.
Right. Yeah.
What? You start the count at 97?
No, my
The
students.
students.
Therefore, I have no choice but to know.
Yeah. And Glenna, how much longer do you have?
We have 5 days.
5?
We interview tomorrow and then 5 more days with kids. Yeah.
All right. It's not bad. You're in the final stretch. You can do this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for joining our call. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing Illuminations with us. And thank you, Mike, for sharing ClassPad, .net. That was fantastic. Like both of you, I really enjoyed learning more about these tools and then learning more about what's going on in your classrooms. That was fantastic. So you guys have a wonderful end to your school year, and we hope we will see you again on an ILMathCom.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Have a good afternoon.
Appreciate the time, everybody.